Hi everyone, this is Dr. Bradshaw and it is Friday, January 25th, and I wanted to do a quick video debrief to just kind of give everybody some feedback on our first assignment on urban versus rural issues for nurse practitioners. This is just kind of some feedback. I said it a lot, so I just wanted to make sure everybody in the group got to kind of hear some context around my comments. I think these are just things in general that will kind of improve your writing and your approach to your assignments more than anything. It's kind of just my 2 cents. So, number one, I recommend when you write in graduate school that you try to avoid the use of direct quotes. Sometimes it's appropriate and sometimes it's not. An appropriate use would be when you are trying to, one of you quoted a law, like the law states blank. That was a good use of a direct quote. But some people kind of overused direct quotes. Try to really minimize that. I want to hear what you're thinking. I want you to put it into your own words. It's a better technique. It's showing me more about your thought process. So, really avoid that where possible. Maybe one quote per paper at most, but otherwise, I want to hear it in your own words. So, really, really avoid that. I think most of the faculty would agree on that point. Um, when you write point number two, I recommend that you start with an outline. Of course, there's APA rules about how you put your paper together. So there's the title page, but just kind of before you start writing, like even here, I've made an outline of what I want to say to you tonight so that when I'm talking on the video, I'm not just rambling all over the place. I recommend that you kind of take a similar approach, that always know that a paper has an introduction, so you give a reader kind of an overview, what to expect. There's the content of the paper, like the points that you're making, which speak to how you're answering the assignment that a professor's given you. And then there should be a conclusion where you're kind of pulling your ideas together again and leaving a reader with some final thoughts and some take-home messages. So think about that as you're writing. Another tip number 3 on writing is paragraph formation. One paragraph should express one main idea. There should be at least 3 sentences per paragraph, usually more, but make sure that your paragraph structure is appropriate. Tip number 4, when you give your paper an assignment, I recommend that you actually give your paper a title. So, for example, I would not call your paper week 2 assignment, because later in the future we're going to ask you to do an oral comp. Oral comps are when you get to the end of your nurse practitioner training and the faculty get together and ask you a bunch of questions. There will be questions on your oral comps about issues, and in preparation for that exam, they're going to ask you to pull papers from this class. And if you just say week 2 assignment when you no longer have access to your Blackboard, when you're looking at all your files in your paper, you may not remember what that was about. So, this week I would name my paper Urban versus Rural Issues in Arizona, Kentucky, wherever you live, Pennsylvania, Michigan. So try to actually use a title for your papers, and in your short title, you can use the key phrase from there. Let's see, I got that. Paragraph, names your files. In terms of, I guess, just good shout outs, Miss Deborah Hammond, I really liked your paper. If anyone wants to see an example of a well written paper, might suggest you reach out to Deborah. She did a good job. Just good writing and good technique. I really appreciated that, plus good content. Michelle, I thought you made a very good point that really I didn't hear from anybody else, which was that urban providers may still have to care for people who are from rural communities. And that's a perspective that they need and that they would like to have. And I really appreciated that. Of course, I'm from a rural community, but even when I lived in New Jersey, in Newark, you think Newark is like this, and it is a super urban area. People from all over the world, but people even coming in from Africa, from other countries, people coming from Pennsylvania to come into the New York area to get treatments and stuff like that, sometimes urban providers have to take care of people. So it was just an interesting comment, and I appreciated that. Wanted to share it with the group. So, kind of moving forward into next week, the assignment is going to be on Healthy People 2020. Um, we're asking you to kind of look at your practice state, your population of interest, pick out 2 or 3 topics of interest. I might suggest somehow on your paper that you pick one of your 2 to 3 and sort of speak to that just a little bit. That's just my 2 cents. Go to office hours, listen to Dr. Owens, get the assignment, but make an outline before you write, because you have to be precise in these papers, or otherwise there's just too much to say in such a short period of time. And that's one last point. Some of you kind of went over the page limits on that, so try to stick as close to as you can to the page limits. Make sure you're using your APA books to really, probably the most common APA errors that I saw is the H of running head is lowercase, it's not capital. When you are citing a website, it's the source would be like the Center for Disease Control, the year, the title of what you're retrieving. So it might be vaccines retrieved from, and then the website. So make sure you double check the APA style. Overall, with the grading, I was pretty lenient. I gave a lot of feedback, but I was very lenient with the scoring. So I just want you to know that I'm going to kind of tighten that up a little bit, because I expect you to improve. So make the corrections, do the, try to move towards some of these suggestions, because I will expect to see improvement, not staying flat. I want to see you improve in your writing and that type of thing. So those are just some of the things that I'm looking for. One of the things in the assignment that you're going to do this week that kind of spoke to me is, when you talk about Healthy People 2020, number one, just for me, recognize the Healthy People 2030 objectives are being written at this time. So you might look for fun just to kind of compare the two. And the other thing is, your assignment says, how are you going to achieve, what are you going to do about it, basically? So I'm looking forward to kind of hearing what you think you're going to do about it. On that note, I suggest that you always think about pulling literature to support your thoughts on, if you say that you're going to do more diabetic foot screenings, how are you going to do that? That type of thing. So pulling in literature to sort of support your arguments is important at this point. It will become more important as you go along, and this is a good place to start getting familiar with that, and learning how to go to the literature, how to find some good information. We'll get into that more in some of your evidence-based practice classes. I'll be seeing you for that too. But at any rate, good week, good job. I enjoyed reading your papers. And if you have any questions, let me know.